This is 4.3 day 2 notes. I want to let 8, -6 be a point on a terminal side of an angle theta. I want to find the exact values of the 6 trig functions. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set up my triangle. This is similar to what we did in 4.1. So all I'm going to do is basically just put, the 8, -6 into my quadrant. So since this is a positive, comma, negative, that means it has to be down here in this quadrant, in the 4th quadrant. So I'm going 8 to the right, down 6. And so if I do Pythagorean theorem, -6 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. 36 plus 64 gives me c squared. 100 equals c squared. My hypotenuse is 10. And then if I set up my 6 trig functions, my sine of theta, 6 is my opposite side from my angle, 8 is my adjacent side, 10 is my hypotenuse. So my sine is my opposite over my hypotenuse. And if I divide by 2, that's -3/5 for my sine. For my cosine, that's my adjacent over my hypotenuse, which reduces to 4/5. Make sure you reduce all your fractions. My tangent is my opposite over my adjacent. So -6/8 reduces to -3/4. Then I'm going to do all of my reciprocal functions. Cosecant goes with sine, so that's -5/3. Secant goes with cosine, that's 5/4. Cotangent goes with tangent, that's -4/3. Quadrant 3, if I have an angle in quadrant 3, then this is my theta, and my reference angle is right here, theta prime. That's my reference angle. It's this angle in here. For quadrant 4, if I have an angle in quadrant 4, this is my angle. This is theta. So my reference angle is right here. That's my reference angle. It's this amount in here. So now I want to find the reference angle for 300 degrees. So if I graph 300 degrees, 300 degrees is going to be down here. This is 300 degrees. And so my reference angle is this angle in here. And so if I kept going from this terminal side right here to here is 360 degrees. So my reference angle is just going to be 360 minus 300 degrees. So that's 60 degrees. It's basically how far you are from this axis. So 5 pi over 7, we've talked about last class how to figure out where it is. Now this is not one that's on our normal usual circle because it's got a denominator of 7. However, since this is 5 pi over 7, and we know that pi is equal to 7 pi over 7, that means that 5 pi over 7 has to be in this quadrant. Okay, and then my reference angle is this one in here. It's how far I am from this. So 7 pi over 7 minus 5 pi over 7 makes my reference angle 2 pi over 7. So even though they're not the normal ones that are on our unit circle, you still figure out basically how far you are from 180 to pi, or 180 pi, or from 0, 360 to pi, whatever you want to refer to as. Okay, so we can also find trig values using your unit circle. Or we can find trig values using your unit circle. We can also find them by using your trig reference table. We filled it out on your 4.3 day one, hopefully, because I'm doing this before we actually do it. So let's go back and review. This should be on your chart. So this is my degrees. And in radians, 30 degrees is pi over 6, pi over 4, pi over 3. Okay? And there's some patterns for this. And sometimes this will help you as another tool to remember your unit circle. So down the road, you can kind of remember it. So my sign, and I'm going to write this in here and then erase it in a second. Think of this as doing square root of 1 over 2, but square root of 1 is just 1. So this was square root of 1 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, square root of 3 over 2. It has that same pattern, square root of 1 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, square root of 3 over 2. And all cosine is that flipped upside down. Square root of 3 over 2, square root of 2 over 2, 1/2. And then tangent, an easy way to remember it is 30 degrees, should have 3's over here. So it's square root of 3 over 3. 60 degrees is the reciprocal of that one, so it's just square root of 3. And when I do my cosine over my sine and vice versa, so for tangent, it's sine over cosine. It's going to be 1. Oops, I need a pen. 1. So this should be written on the back of your yellow pages. If not, write this on your yellow pages. This is one thing that is helpful to come back and refer to. Everything on your unit circle is based off your 30, 45, 60, besides those ones that are on your quadrangles, like your 0, 90, 180, 270. You also need to use your quadrangle. Quadrangle. I don't know what that was supposed to say. I don't know what that is. And, okay, and I don't know why it said stand. So keep in mind that this is 1, 0, 0, 1, negative 1, 0, 0, negative 1. Think of it as if it's unit circle, that means that this length is 1. So if I'm on an XY axis at 0, 0, if I go 1 to the right, it's 1, 0. If I go 1 up, it's 0, 1. If I go 1 to the left, it's negative 1, 0. If I go 1 down, it's 0, negative 1. And remember, that is always your cosine, comma, your sine. And then your tangent is just your sine of your cosine, so it's 0, undefined, 0, undefined, back to 0. And then also, we went over your all students take calculus. And so remember, the A means that sine is positive in this quadrant, cosine is positive, and tangent is positive. And then all the reciprocal functions follow the same pattern. In second quadrant, sine's positive, cosine is negative, tangent's negative. Third quadrant, sine's negative, cosine's negative, tangent's positive. Fourth quadrant, sine is negative, cosine is positive, tangent's negative, and then all the reciprocals follow as well. So all students take calculus. Okay, so instead of using your unit circle, you can also use reference angle to find your trig values. This is just another method in our toolbox. So first you're going to identify what quadrant the angle falls in. Then you're going to identify what the reference angle is, either a 30, a 45, or 60 if it falls within the quadrant. If it falls on your 0, 90, 180, 270, you just use your zeros and your ones and your negative one stuff. But also note that when you need to, if I'm giving you cosecant, secant, or, that's supposed to say cotangent. Change that to cotangent. Cotangent, you need to take the reciprocal of the fraction first, and then use your all students take calculus chart to either put a positive or negative on your answer. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So let's try doing a few using this method versus memorizing the unit circle. So 300 degrees. So this is 0, 90, 180, 270, which means my angle is going to fall down here. This is 300 degrees. So first thing I need to do is find my reference angle. Well, actually, the first thing you need to do is draw it. So 2, find my reference angle. So I'm 60 degrees for my reference angle. So then I'm going to look up tangent of 60 on my chart. And if I look at tangent of 60, I'm just going to pull it out, and my tangent 60 is square root of 3. And then we're going to test all students take calculus. And in the fourth quadrant, tangent is going to be negative, so my answer is square root of negative 3. Cosecant 7 pi over 6. So 7 pi over 6, remember pi is over here. If this denominator is 6, think of this as 6 pi over 6, which means 7 pi over 6 is right here. And if this is 7 pi over 6, my distance from 6 pi over 6, so first example is draw it, to my reference angle is pi over 6, because that came from doing my 7 pi over 6 minus my 6 pi over 6 to see how far away it was from my negative x-axis. Then I'm going to look up, since we're dealing with cosecant, I need to look up sine of pi over 6 on my chart. And if I look up sine of pi over 6, that's 1/2. But then I need to find the reciprocal of it, because we're doing cosecant, which is 2. And then last step is to check my all students take calculus. And in the third quadrant, sure enough, the only thing that's positive is tangent, so that means cosecant and sine are negative. So my answer is negative 2. Last one, sine of 405. Okay, so if I go around one time, that's 360. So 405 minus 360, and remember you're doing negative, so you're going in the clockwise direction. That's 45. So I still have to go another negative 45 degrees. So that puts me in the fourth quadrant, which means my reference angle is 45 degrees. So if I look up sine of 45 on my chart, I get square root of 2 over 2. And then if I check my all students take calculus, in the fourth quadrant, sine is negative. So the answer is negative square root of 2 over 2.